call the meeting to order. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Ralph Pike made a motion. Is there a second? Brenda seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
Approve the agenda. Okay, I need approval of the August 1st minutes. Everybody read them? I need a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Tom?
I'll second that.
Ralph? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we'll discuss the plan. Johnson?
You had also, we've had the amended minutes from July 9th.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we need to approve that amendment order in there. It looks good to me. I don't know if everybody read that. Okay, I need a motion to approve the July 9th amendment. Jason?
Second.
Ready? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, now we'll discuss the plan. Chauncey, you want to discuss it, or?
Yeah, do you want to, for right now, if you'd be okay, I'll go ahead and just discuss what we send out that was new. And then when the public hearing starts, we can do the review of the redevelopment plan, if that would be okay.
It'll be okay.
The only thing that we had sent out, we went ahead since the last meeting, I believe we had sent out, or either delivered today, some information regarding the affidavit that the Swiggerts had done. After review, Mr. Swigert reviewed their bylaws, and they realized that it took 2 signatures, so they went ahead and submitted that with both signatures on it. We also have a letter now from the Mr. Crawford's bank showing that they are committed to funding the project. And I think those are the only additions that we had since the last meeting.
Good. Do you have anything else? Or discussing what we're going to do? Or?
So we can do that at the public hearing.
Okay. Okay, we'll move into the public hearing then. Does anybody have any comments? Gene? Gene, we would ask for you to come up to the end of the table here and state your name and address.
Right here?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
So they can get you on camera.
Oh, wonderful. All right, my name is Jean Oddie. My husband's name is David Oddie, and unfortunately he couldn't make the meeting today because 2 o'clock in the afternoon for a working man is impossible. So I highly suggest to the commissioners, if we do one of these again, just be conscientious of workers, people that would attend in the evenings if they could. It's not fair to the individual for them to have to make, take a day off and without pay to do that, and that's what happens in my husband's case. I should have brought it up at the first meeting, but I didn't, so I apologize about that. I have a problem. I have no problem with Mr. Crawford getting a tip for the station in the restaurant and that. My problem is allowing extra property be attached to that TIF. We have no planning, we have no zoning, we have no idea what is going to go on that property. So you guys are saying whatever comes in, you're attaching a TIF to it. And I think it's wrong for the board to do that. We knew what was coming in, and you don't know what finance person that has the property. You have no idea who he's going to sell it to. He may say he's going to sell it this way, and he may, a salvage yard could come in. You guys, we can't stop it, on that 90 acres. Someone wants to come in and detox waste or something and set up a factory there. We have no way of avoiding that from coming into the community. And I think as a board, you guys need to seriously think about that. I did draw up on here that I know the sewage lines or the ponds need to go in. I would seriously like you guys to square it off and only allow the original TIF plan to go in. I think it's wrong that that whole property goes in. I don't care what financial person or who owns the property. It can be Joe Blow from Bloomsdale. but that should not be attached to this. The other thing is, Mr. Crawford says he's going to do this. You have a letter of intent. Do we have a contract with him saying that this stuff will be done? Do we have something that says, yes, or is there some sort of reprimand? I've heard other counties that have made TIFs out to people, or, set it up. The person comes in, they do what they do part of what they said, and they quit. How can the county go back on that? Say, if Mr. Crawford does redevelop the station, but he decides he doesn't want to redevelop the restaurant, which is a possibility. Funds can be short or something, even though he has this loan. You always have that fear. So I don't know if we've discussed with a lawyer if something can be written up or drawn up, or what is the attachment, Chauncey, with the TIF program? Is there something set up that, we're going to give him, a tax break for this property, but what is his guarantee to us, other than the letter of confirmation that he's gotten a loan, that says this really is going to get established and done right? Those are my questions, those are my concerns. And they would be the same as if this was going to happen to the station that's going to be in Bloomsdale.
The lawyer here, can you answer any of her questions?
Yes, my name is Mark Spikerman. I'm with Gilmore and Bell, and I'll be representing the county on this. And the general idea is that the redevelopment plan, which is before the TIF Commission right now, is sort of a general outline, and we're going to the county will then, if the redevelopment plan is approved, enter into a redevelopment agreement, a contract with the developer, and that's going to spell out the specifics of, what happens if they don't build everything, and, that they need to get insurance on the site and things like that.
But what will happen? Suppose he comes in, because I've talked to commissioners in Farmington, and, they've had a couple TIFs, and what happened, the TIFs, the county was in, good faith, the committee was in good faith with those businessmen, and then the commitment fell through on that person's, they had no reprimand, no way to go back to that person.
Right, yeah. The specifics will be subject to negotiation, but generally, whatever's identified as the project, there's a mechanism in these contracts where they must complete the project. They must present the county with a certificate of substantial completion. The county verifies, yes, the project's been completed. And then, as long as that certificate's been accepted, they can get the TIF assistance. If it doesn't get accepted, they're not going to get anything.
So is that TIF put in escrow, or is that money put in escrow or something? Or, my understanding is they get a tax break while they're developing all this. And at the end, if they don't have it developed the way there should be, and they did the tax breaks, how do you get your money back for it? Or
Right now, there are no TIF revenues. TIF revenues are incremental revenues that won't exist unless the site is renovated, because there's going to be no increase in property taxes or sales taxes unless they do something on the site, right? So if they do nothing, there's going to be no money to pay them anything. If they do something, you'll start to get those monies, but the redevelopment agreement will be written in a way that says, you've got to do the whole project before you get those monies.
Just another comment, Gene. Your husband did call me this morning and tell me that he was convicted against it, so I thought
all right, appreciate that.
against putting the whole spider farm.
But anyway, I am going to hand this to the board, and I am going to ask you to consider redrawing it up. I don't want to put a hold on Mr. Crawford getting this established. I don't even know if it could be done at this open meeting. But at this stage of the game, I would seriously like you to discuss squaring it off after including those ponds, and leaving the back half of that property off. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, point of clarification. No one in the TIF is getting a tax break. I'd like to clarify that. The taxes that the owners will be paying would not be any different if there was a TIF there or not. They're not getting any kind of a tax break whatsoever. They're paying the full tax. The TIF will capture the additional taxes that are being paid up and above the base that was set, and the base will be set when the TIF goes into effect. So the way, and again, we should talk about this a little bit before we open the hearing. The whole theory behind tax increment financing is property that is not being utilized to its full extent, full benefit, will receive some public assistance through the TIF. And after that happens, there'll generally be some increase in assessed values and increases in other taxes, such as sales tax and that type of thing. And those increases, a portion of the sales tax increase and the increases in real estate values and taxes associated with that increase will go into an account to help pay for the development cost. So the owners are not really getting any kind of a break.
So if he starts the station and he increases that value, and the tax will only be on the assessed value before the station is completed, it's my understanding, and he doesn't do the restaurant,
Let me clarify. The taxes that go to the taxing jurisdictions will be based upon the assessed values at today's value. The money going into the TIF account will be the increase in assessed values and those taxes and those rates associated with that increase. So if
So do they end up using that money to keep redoing or, working on that property then?
What will happen will be, there will be an agreement put in place with the developer, and that agreement will spell out, and I can't say exactly what's going to spell out because it hasn't been put in place yet. Typically, the agreement will spell out that developer will get paid based upon the incremental taxes that his project is generating. So if his project is not generating any increment, then there'll be no pay. So he'll only, although that agreement might be for a couple $1 million, unless there is some money generated, there's really no revenue to honor that. The county does not have a risk in that because the agreement with the developer will be based upon the money going into the special allocation fund, that tax increment that's going into that fund. So unless there's something going in, the county has no other liability. But they are liable to make payments based upon the incremental revenue. Did I say that right, Mark?
Yeah, you got it exactly right.
Okay. Anyway, I will hand this paper to the chairman. And I would ask that you consider squaring that property off and that excess property not be put into a TIF. I just think it's, nothing may happen, and then again, if something does happen, we're stuck with it, since we don't have planning and zoning. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
No. Okay, anybody else got any comments? Okay, I got a man back here. Could you come up? Name and address and...
Jeremy Hebb, live on New Bourbon Road. I'm one of the 3 houses that butt up to that property. And like she was saying, if whatever goes into, if it's going into commercial, what if like some kind of a dumping factory or something goes into that? What's that going to do to our homes is what I'm... No, I agree that
things what she said.
bringing jobs and stuff to the community at the same time, is it going to, how much is it going to affect us also? Is my...
Okay, we'll keep all that in consideration.
We were concerned about the sewer, and I've already talked to Wayne about that. That was something else we were worried about. But we're worried about that, what's going to happen to the value of our homes and what goes in.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Looks like we have no further comments. We have no written comments. Got any oral comments from the taxing? Any of you people got anything to say? school board?
I feel like that our position with district is that, if we can be a part of something and encourage something that will create jobs in the community, it's good for the school district in that even if we're receiving a lesser amount of tax funding than we would without a TIF, right now we're receiving none off of that. So it is a smaller percentage of something is better than 100% of nothing. So that's kind of the stance that the district takes. I'll just take off my school district hat, and I live right there. I'm probably as much affected as these folks that have just spoken, and I would have those same concerns about property values and those kinds of things as an individual, as these guys would, and would hope that entrance to the property and that kind of thing would be such that it wouldn't negatively impact that housing development that's in its fledgling state out there.
Okay. Anyone else? You got anything?
That road is a private road, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it could
road
be
that Ms.
restricted
Pyle
to
and I-
commercial traffic.
It certainly could be, and
I mean, you could actually put a gate on it.
you bet.
So
We got
as
it.
far as access to that road,
Yes, and now that doesn't address his concern because he's over on the New Bremen side and I'm over on the Country Meadows side. But I understand your concern, sir. But speaking strictly for the school district, I feel like it's a benefit to the district.
and Chauncey, probably you're the one that could best answer this, is as far as any commercial or industrial development to go in there, and I've been involved with a bunch of that in the county. As far as concerns about hazardous waste or what that plant would actually be doing, and all of that they would have to go through to get clearance from DNR and everything else, does offer you some protection. As far as what would actually go in there as far as an industrial or a commercial type facility. There's a lot of hoops that they got to jump through in order to even be able to build it or be able to do anything in there. I know I'm thinking back 10 years ago with the Wholesome, situation. It took them 3 years to get all of the permits and to jump through all the hoops and everything that the DNR and the conservation people and the Corps of Engineers and everybody else before they could even stick a shovel in the ground.
But that was a mining situation where I think when you get into the ground and you're digging and you're removing soil, topsoil and stuff, they were going to impact the environment. The Great Folsom.
The same thing with involved with Build Best, and I know all of the property restrictions and everything that we went through every year with DNR, and that was a manufacturing facility that didn't have anything to do with mining, and they're still tied in. The Bank Bloomsdale that owns it now, they still got to jump through all kinds of hoops every year with the DNR on that property since they own it. So there are safeguards.
Didn't about 2 years ago, wasn't there an industrial development deal come through and was looking for land to develop, and now all of a sudden we've got this Weigert farm? They contacted all the chamber of conferences in every county, and now all of a sudden you've got this land to develop for industrial? What's the deal?
I don't know what you're
That
particularly
was
talking
held
about.
real quiet.
Tell them about the study, the Claude Sweeney study of all the properties we looked at in St. John County.
St. John County was one of 4 counties that was involved in a a study that was actually financed by St. Francis County. And they actually located or identified industrial sites, what they considered mega industrial sites, several hundred acres in the 4 counties. And in St. John County, there were, out of the top 20 sites that they located in the 4 counties, 10 of them were in St. John County. And actually the top 8 sites, out of the top 8 sites, 8 of the top 10 sites were in St. John County. And for the last some time, those have been being studied, and property owners were contacted, and nothing's happened out of that. This Swigert site, or that particular site at J&N out there, was one of those 8 sites that was identified.
And it was kept quiet to keep the price of the property from
Keep,
skyrocketing.
speculation and all of the things, and as we sit here today, I can tell you there's 3 that I know of, companies that are looking at sites in St. John County right now.
Industrial or manufacturing?
Both.
So why do we have to use TIF money to redevelop a piece of land that some people had run it down in the ground?
In a lot of cases, the only reason or the way that you attract these companies and stuff is by having TIF plans and things available to these companies.
Is TIF money available for any other businesses in
Sure.
the county?
Sure.
So how
If
do
they
you apply?
qualify. Now, it's not a matter of just coming in and asking for it. There's certain qualifications, correct, Chauncey?
Let me address a couple issues if I could.
Yes, go ahead, Johnson.
One of the things to keep in mind is that any agreement that would be made for a developer to get reimbursed will have to go through the county commission. And the 3 county commissioners will have to sign off on that, or majority of those 3 county commissioners anyway, will have to sign off on that agreement. So this is step 1, put a plan in place, talk about what development in what area you're looking at doing something in. This is only the first step. The next step would be for the county commission then to negotiate with the developer, and that negotiation would identify what type of development is going to go into that site. So if there's a toxic waste dump going in, the chances are pretty high that the county commission said, no, we're not going to finance that. And so I think that there's some trust that has to be put out there with the elected officials to do the right thing when the project comes forward and that development agreement is put into place. So.
Gary?
I'll add, if you want to qualify for TIF, you got to do one of 2 things or both. Either create jobs or raise the tax base, or both. And this particular project, we're looking to create 50 or 60 jobs. And then eventually, right now, Shelley said what's drawing no taxes, we'll be drawing sales tax.
Okay.
It's just, I've got to leave you to take my job. I do have, we could still square the property off, just have the original station and the restaurant and stuff go into the tax entity. This board can always reconvene if anybody's property out there gets sold. Anyone could come back in and say, okay, we're having, this company wants to come in, this company, is able to qualify to work under a TIF Act. So I see no reason why we have to have extra property attached to this TIF at this time. At this time, only the station and the restaurant and stuff is supposed to be developed up. Let's go with that. But let's take the extra property off of it. I see no need to keep that in there.
I'll go with Dennis.
I was just wondering, as far as the prospect of industrial park, if that was developed without planning and zoning, wouldn't that create some prospective threats as to what could go on back there? If there wasn't down on black and white that this is not permitted, that is not permitted? I mean, that would be one of my kind of fears about a developing industrial park where there isn't any planning and zoning involved.
You got an industrial park right here you can't get nobody to come to.
I'm sorry?
You got an industrial park right here you can't get nobody to come to.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but that industrial park is under planning and zoning, correct?
In the city, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a little bit of a fear to me. Another thing in general, I think that any kind of development, we need to stop and not forget all the people that make the development possible. By that I mean, like Jeremy was saying, or Jane too, you don't want to diminish the quality of life or the value of a person's property because of development next door in the neighborhood. I'm hoping that it can be done benefiting both. At least if a development occurred in the area, it can at least keep your property value as it is and hopefully make it better.
Denny, I developed in the county without planning and zoning, and I've developed master plans that would benefit everyone concerned, neighbors and everything, and I would continue to do that. I guess I'm most disappointed on what happened in that area after we left, and that people just let it go down like they did and lose the 100 jobs that we had there, you know, so, I mean, whether we have planning or zoning, it doesn't matter to me. I think about each and every one of my neighbors when I go into a project. If you don't believe me, you go out and ask the Bowmans, the golf course, and the Jokers that I developed right next to their property.
No, I truly believe that, Wayne. But
we never had a problem. I'm concerned about theirs. I'm thankful that Randy came by that would take an interest in that project again and bring it back to life for St. John County. He lost 100 jobs. They lost thousands and thousands of dollars of sales tax, fuel tax revenue. And when you talk about environmental protection, Randy goes through that every day. I know what the environmental protection and all the licensing and stuff that we have to go through with the DNR. We're thankful Randy's there also because he's cleaning up a mess that was left behind.
I guess when I was referring to planning and zoning, I was referring to like the possible development of the industrial area behind the existing truck stop area there. I mean, I kind of favor what Gary said some time ago there. Our main interest right now, I feel, ought to be on revitalizing the existing area that Schweiger Brothers developed years ago and get that kicking again.
I mean, I have no real interest in developing a whole bunch more. But if the opportunity was
Yes.
to bring some jobs in here, we can make it aesthetically possible.
But
And the only reason we even offered it, the commission asked us, because we were in the study, we had the access to the highway and stuff like that. So we agreed to do that.
would we, I guess my concern is still going on about the planning and zoning. Would we leave ourselves sort of at risk? I mean, I know that you could sell the property to some interested developer, and not developer, a company, but once that company owns that piece of property that they might have been buying in the industrial area, if it's not under planning and zoning, would they not have the freedom to sort of spread their wings as they wished, as long as they were under the state, within the confines of the state statutes?
They would have that freedom, but I can tell you the permitting process, for 1 acre of ground, you have to get a permit from the Department of Natural Resources for ground reclamation. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's where it starts. But, I mean, once they buy it, they meet all the permit requirements. It's no different. I got another piece of property out here on 32 I'm dealing with right now that wasn't taken care of. And I hope to bring it back in someday, not the TIF, but bring it back in where it is productive again.
But to access the TIF, they would still have to go through the approval process that we mentioned with the commissioners.
Yeah, the TIF actually would not be a big issue to me with the planning, with the industrial park, if that would ever materialize. But my point still is, if it's not under planning and zoning jurisdiction at the time that it is sold to a prospective customer, that customer still has, should I say, more freedoms than it would be, correct?
It would have, but more than likely it's gonna go through the industrial development group here when we bring somebody in, and I'm a member of the IDC as well, and the reason I'm there is try to create jobs.
I mean, it's not a decision for me to make, I just wanted to bring it up, that it's just questionable, the threat or non-threat as compared to the planning and zoning setup or a non-planning and zoning setup. That's,
There's always that threat.
And that threat exists whether or not that property is included in the TIF or
Yes,
not in the TIF.
exactly.
So, I mean, it's a non, my opinion, that's not an issue.
okay, you raise it.
Agree, that threat is there regardless whether we cut it off to the original Swigert complex, square it off like Mrs. Heil suggests, or leave it as is. That threat is still there,
Yes.
whether we have TIF or no TIF there. That, we could, like say, square off our little bit, Wayne.
Is that the revised plat that's in the paper now? I mean, I've
Yes.
seen.
Yes, sir.
Is it
Yes.
that I just had surveyed out?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Guess if there's no other comments, we'll adjourn the public hearing and consider a resolution recommending, I guess I need a motion to adjourn it.
Let me have one question real quick. And this is addressed for the attorney because it was a request that I had received from the folks with the county, the taxing people. They'd like to have it noted, at least in the minutes, that any statutorily approved fees would be coming off of the revenue going into the TIF, and there's such things as the assessor's fees and those type things that are statutorily approved. Is that something that needs to be addressed in the plan, or is that just assumed that it would happen, or by stating it in the minutes, will that be enough?
It's assumed that it'll happen, and by stating it in the minutes, that's enough. And we can make sure that it's in the redevelopment agreement as well.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Brenda? Second?
Yes, second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is over. Now we'll consider a resolution recommending the St. Genevieve County Commission approve of the redevelopment plan, the redevelopment area, and the redevelopment projects.
I do believe that resolution has been passed out. It's in your packet.
Chauncey, the cost benefit analysis that you handed out at the August 1st meeting, that cost analysis was done on the new, or
Yes.
the present balance.
Yes.
Okay, I guess before we approve this, should we talk about this plan that Gene had? What's the board's feelings on it?
What area is that exactly included as far as our original?
That picture right there.
This picture, yeah.
Maybe squaring it off right.
It's Exhibit B. Oh, so it isn't there, it's left.
That's what she's wanting to
Yeah.
change.
So was that ever in the plan? That was never,
What's that?
that never was like that, right?
No, it never was.
We just brought that.
Before it was, Wayne had the lagoons surveyed out, but it's a real crooked line going around. Rather than going by all the different survey numbers, we thought we'd, square the place off. And, well, it's probably a little bit bigger than what the commission thought it was gonna be, but, and they got squared off.
Why didn't you take the motel out?
We did.
We did take the motel out. Motel's out of it,
Why?
because they don't need anything done out there.
They opted out, right?
Yeah. They opted out.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't?
They basically have done most of their work already. They spent a substantial amount of money whenever the Regency bought it. So that reason, I assume that's why they didn't want to be included in TIF.
There's another couple reasons on that. The statute does not allow for, well, I can't say it doesn't allow for, but by statute, you do not collect the sales tax on sleeping rooms. So there's not a whole lot of increment that would be generated off the hotel or motel other than the increment from real estate. And the real estate's already been approved. So that was the reason we decided to take it out.
There's no tax money there, so.
And Chauncey, concerning this, it's a rectangle now, as what Gene, the way Gene talked about, she thought it was going to be squared off right behind the lagoon area. Now, what is there a consequence created either way by squaring it off in the smaller area, the bigger area? I mean, is there an advantage or disadvantage, or none either way, or?
I guess it's if there's going to be some development, it would make sense to have something to develop. Very, very difficult to develop on top of your lagoon. So the thought was, I guess, and I guess it was my misunderstanding when somebody told me to square that off, that I squared it off of the property. I didn't bisect,
That goes back to the back of the Schweiger property.
I just went to the end of the property. And that was, if I misunderstood it, that's my fault.
I mean, is there any judgment to having it that way as opposed to the smaller area that Gene's referring to? I mean, it's.
I guess the only detriment would be that Mr. Swigert's already had it surveyed. And it had the survey line ran by what was in the plan. Is that right, Mike? I guess that's
You mean I have to get it surveyed again? That doesn't cost me money already.
Wayne, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on your lagoons, when you put those in, wasn't there a minimum amount of acreage and stuff that DNR said you had to have around those lagoons? And for certain size lagoons, you have to have a certain perimeter to where development couldn't take place within so many feet of those lagoons?
No, we just needed resources to build it. I mean, the dirt and stuff that big around just to build that complex, and I rebuilt that in 2003. You know, so that's when it got expanded that big. We had to have the third pond plus the filter bed.
But that was spelled out by DNR
Oh, yeah.
on
Because
how,
of
the
amount-
size that you had to do it.
The GPD, the gallons per day that we were permitted for.
Yes.
And that complex was not quite to capacity, never was at capacity. And it's really been hard on it. It hasn't even functioned properly since there hasn't been any activity. We need water flow, you know, to make
And
it work, so.
If there was any industrial development that would go in behind that, isn't there?
We could handle domestic waste. They would have to take care of their industrial waste.
Right.
So,
Which means that the lagoons and stuff may have to be expanded.
They could even be expanded, that's true.
Wayne, how many residents or business, or is it sewage system actually?
Just the Connor and the few homes, couple homes down the street, which you're on, Allen's not on it, so. But,
So there's 2 residents? Or
2 residents, that's all. And of course, any of those other lots could be on it in there, you know, if they want to.
At some point in time, mine may end up there too.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just
So
a
there's
matter.
capacity.
What?
There's capacity.
There's capacity there. Right now, we're not even running 10,000 gallons a day with the truck wash. So, and we're I think it's 35,000 gallons a day is what we're permitted for.
So the truck wash is in on that, and what about the restaurant? and
Everything.
the Gas station?
John's on it now, because we do the refining of his water. He would have had to put in a filter bed too, because it's losing stream downstream from us, so we have to run it through a filter bed, and that's the reason we built that. Rather than John build his own filter bed and try to integrate it with ours, he came on board with us. He pre-treats all his water, and then we do the final treatment through the filter bed. And I guess the state was just here a couple of weeks ago. We got an A grade, she didn't give me any marks. So we want the water. We need the water.
Once again, like I said, I might be overcautious, but if that's all in TIF, that's going to make it more desirable for developers, which is wonderful. But I still look at whether it's a risk or not, I don't know, but the probability of somebody getting in there, and if they got their company set up, their strategy after they're set up is not bounded by anything more than the state statutes, right, or the state DNR or whatever, as far as not having planning and zoning. That's just an interest of mine. It may not even be.
When we look at a company on the IDC, Tom, we look at their background, the financial wherewithal and stuff before we start getting really interested in these guys, because you can run into people that have a great idea, but they don't have it financed, they don't have the wherewithal behind it. That's when you run into issues.
But even at that way, once the people are in there, if this, like I said, this is all saying what if maybe, but they're their own boss once they're there, basically.
Other than what the state and the
Yes.
county would control them on.
But if they're in the TIF, it seems like somebody else would be looking over their shoulder. They couldn't maybe get in if the commissioners, after reviewing their potential, may not approve what they went in there for. So maybe it could be looked at as a safeguard for detriment to that property.
Well, not for the residents, because I was told that the TIF money does not include purchasing any residents. Is that correct?
That's right.
So we, as residents, we have no say-so. I mean, we're out of the TIF. We can't join the TIF, so there's a line right behind our house that they can put anything in, And so our value of our home, this company may come in and just buy us out, but they don't have to if they don't want to. I mean, because it's not part of the TIF.
I think that goes back to what Brad and I said a while ago, Brad brought up. Without TIF, you still have that possibility. They can move right across the road from you. So the fact that it's TIF wouldn't make any difference there. I mean, they could, like I say, move right across the road from you. Just to the north of you, you could buy a section of ground that was not even in TIF, and you would still have the same problem. I'm like Brenda. To a degree, the TIF will protect you somewhat because you have the county commissioners has to buy in, plus IDC, generally IDC would, to help their kind of screen what goes in that respect also. So I hear you loud and clear by having a residential area next to it, but just because of TIF or not TIF is not buying you anything as far as protection of that. More so, I guess, again, I shouldn't say anything, more so TIF will protect you more than being totally unprotected. So,
And I'll just point out, I've seen in other cities and counties, the redevelopment agreements for TIF will sometimes spell out, in the absence of planning and zoning, some specific like buffer zones or other site plan issues that can mitigate some unwarranted issues when industry moves next to residential, and make that a condition of getting TIF assistance.
Okay. No comments? Okay.
Or storm water runoff. Since a lot of that ground slopes away from the present one, would runoff need to be a present stormwater?
Again, whenever you apply for a permit from the Department of Natural Resources for a land disturbance, stormwater has to be a part of the plan now.
Does that carry down to where?
Well, right now it runs down in the waterway behind your house, you know, but that doesn't mean, what would probably happen, somebody would shave that hill off and that water would be directed to the back, where it get to the creek, you know.
Or they'd have to put in a stormwater detention.
Well, that happens with land disturbance. You have to have stormwater detention now.
Yep, I mean, it's almost, you're gonna, you don't have any choice. Which means that they can't, any water that's drained on the property cannot be drained onto somebody else's property. They have to manage their own stormwater within their property.
If it's draining there now, they can. If it's not, they can't do it.
The DNR will control the stormwater now. I mean, we did that years ago. We took it all to that other stormwater plant we got, which will cover just about everything out there except on the north side behind the house, that's correct. And it probably wouldn't handle that much land surface anymore anyhow, so you'd have to build another one. And that will happen. And that's basically why, if you were a developer looking at the site, you're gonna need some of the fill from on the backside to bring that property up. So if you exclude that, they can't use it, so.
Okay. I guess we need to put this up for a vote on this number 6.
Yes, somebody need to make a motion.
Somebody needs to make a motion on what you want to approve or disapprove.
Make a motion that we approve the resolution as written.
I have a motion on the floor, and do I have a second?
Second.
Brad seconded. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Any other business? If there's no further business, do I have a motion for adjournment? Jason?
I'll second that.
Okay, Brad seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Tell me
basically what transpired today?
The Tax Increment Financing Commission for St. Genevieve County met. They held a public hearing, reviewed the plan, and they agreed to, and they recommended that the County Commission go ahead and pass a resolution authorizing tax increment financing at the Ozora area. And the area we're talking about is where the old truck stop was, and the land immediately adjoining that. It's about 114 acres, 112 acres, I guess it is, right at the intersection of Highway 55 and Route N, in that northeast, was it northeastern corner, I believe it is.
Okay. Now, we know it includes the truck stop and the restaurant, and then some additional vacant land?
Yes, yeah, there's about right at 90-some acres of vacant land in a farm that joins that.
Yeah. Well, what's the right now we have a proposal on the table for some development.
Yes.
On part of that property.
Right.
So what's that about?
The truck stop area, the restaurant area, that would be the area that would be first to be developed. And so they're looking at using tax increment financing to do that.
Okay. And then for the rest of the area?
Right now, there is no development proposed for that. The projects have been approved, and those projects include such things as stormwater retention, streets, road, curb and gutter with that, extension of water and sewer facilities, and extension of other utilities.
What are the prospects?
Well, I think pretty good. I think it's a good piece of property, ideal location, right on the interstate, with utilities available. I think it would have a real good opportunity.
I remember somebody mentioned that there was a survey of sites in an 8-county area.
There was a consultant, internationally known actually, consultant whose job is to go out and to bring businesses into an area.
Mm-hmm.
This was a site that was identified as high development potential, and that was really one of the big reasons that it was put in to that TIF district.
Okay. What's the next step?
Next step is in 2 weeks, the county commission will meet. 2 weeks from tomorrow, and they will be meeting and hopefully approving the resolution that they will have to be formed. They will form. I guess it's an order for counties. They will do an order putting the TIF into place. And so the next step after that then would be negotiating an agreement with the developer.
And that's it. And then if he agrees and you agree, then it goes forward.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any difference if I agree or not.
I know, the county commission.
But if the county commission agrees, then they'll have an agreement in place. It can last up to 23 years, the TIF will. And the way TIF works is that there's an incremental revenue stream going into an account that pays for development, that helps pay for some of that development within that district. And it won't pay 100%, but it will pay a portion of it.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.